Alright, since y'all seem to somewhat enjoy my poor misuse of money story, I got another reckless misuse of money story for ya. Actually, I have a few more that I could share, so give this video a like if you want to hear more. This one is going to sound unbelievable. I mean, how many of you out there would end up paying over the course of, let's say, 5 to 6 years, $80,000 for a Honda Civic SI? I'm willing to bet most of you probably said, hell no! Sadly, the story I'm about to share with y'all isn't unique. In one form or another, there's probably a gluttony of stories out there in America where people are constantly rolling over negative equity into their next car loan, just so they can say they have the latest and greatest of cars. For God's sake, last I checked, Americans were 1.3 trillion with a T dollars in automotive debt. So I know damn well many of you watching right now might know a guy or gal who's way upside down on their car. Maybe it's even you. I mean, that's just statistically probable. Anyways, to protect the identity of one of the guys that I used to ride with, I changed a couple details, including his name and occupation. That being said, this is a true story of one of my buddies, I'll call him Timmy, and how he's going to end up paying upwards $80,000 for a Honda Civic SI, interest included, of course, when everything is said and done. Back in 2018, Timmy had just gotten promoted to Lance Corporal of the Marine Corps and was ecstatic about purchasing his first non-junkie car. He wanted something different, something not so stereotypical for a youngster in the military to own, like those who go out and get a Camaro or a Mustang. No, he just wanted something that calmly announced to the world that he's just a little bit older and wiser than his private first class counterparts. So one fateful day, he went out and purchased a brand new 2018 Honda Civic SI. I caught up with him one Saturday night across the highway from Talking Stick Resort in Scottsdale, Arizona with his new set of wheels. I was genuinely happy for him. Being only 22 at the time, he had what I perceived was a solid choice for a first real car. After a little while, I came to find out that the out-the-door price that he signed on was a whopping $34,000 with $4,000 down. As you can imagine, I was a little taken aback, seeing as a new 2018 Honda Civic SI at an MSRP in the mid-20,000s. I'd imagine that out the door would have been tops in the upper 20,000s after tax, titles, and fees, of course. What's worse, his APR was an incredible 17% for 72 months. Yet somehow, I still hear about these ridiculous interest rates at 22% or higher. Like, holy hell. Talk about predatory lending, am I right? In other words, in a hypothetical world, had Timmy kept his car for the full 6 years, making every payment on time, he'd pay an additional $18,000 in interest alone. That would mean his first Honda Civic SI would have technically cost him $52,000 and some change. Unfortunately, that's not where this story ends. You see, over the next year or so, any spare money Timmy got, he would immediately put towards modding his Civic. I'm talking about this man spent a few thousand on real carbon fiber parts like the hood, the splitter. He got an aluminum rear diffuser, a nice pair of bronze niche wheels, I believe, and a few performance mods here and there. Come to think of it, I'm pretty sure he was financing some of the car parts at that point with a firm. Even though he didn't care about what others thought about his car, he was undoubtedly making reckless financial decisions. Now I know at this point, some of y'all are probably like, hey man, it's his hard-earned money. Who are you to tell him what he can and cannot buy? To a certain degree, you're absolutely right. I can't necessarily control Timmy's actions, however, his reckless financial decisions do come with some repercussions that can and will affect the rest of us long term. If people like Timmy were to continually and irresponsibly borrow money, at some point, we may experience another small financial crisis, or perhaps even a big one. Either way, not ideal. seeing as even if the government were to hypothetically bail us out or relieve us of our auto debt, which isn't likely at all, similarly to how they're trying to talk about relieving student loans at some point, it all sounds great on paper to those of you that owe student loans, or in this case, for this video, auto debt. But debt just doesn't disappear. It's incurred somewhere in some financial ledger or general ledger of a financial institution or bureau. And how do we pay back that debt as a society? Higher taxes, budget cuts, higher interest rates for future loans, or incentivizing us somehow to buy bonds. Either way, we can't keep pretending as a society that debt isn't our problem and keep kicking that can down the road. That will only make it worse for the younger future generations that will one day want to finance things. All I gotta say is, good luck to you Gen Z and Gen Alpha kiddos. Wow, I digress. Back to Timmy. By February of 2020, Timmy did the unthinkable, and this is where the story takes a turn for the unexpected. He traded in his modded Honda Civic Si and bought yet another brand new Honda Civic Si. Yeah. As you can imagine, when I saw him pull up one of the last Saturdays before coronavirus forced America to shut down in March of 2020, he was rocking a new bone stock Civic Si. I inquired what happened and why. His reasoning was because the 2020 Civic Si was the better car as it was slightly revised and that he wanted a blank slate to begin modding again as he felt like he royally messed up his first one. Okay, I then proceeded to ask him, how much did you pay for this thing? And he proudly boasts, only $29,000. This time I made sure not to get robbed. Okay, Tim, this is it. You can't be tripping anymore. You heard about my dumbass mistakes. I don't want to see you go down the same road, no pun intended, as me. Now, fast forward to the week of Thanksgiving 2020, and guess what, guys? This man felt so bad about his February 2020 purchase. He ended up downgrading, quote unquote downgrading, to a lightly used 2020 Honda Civic Si. Once again, let me paint the picture real clear for y'all. Imagine seeing your buddy that you've warned not to go to these snaky Steeler ships, but he deliberately chooses to not listen to you, not only once, but twice now, in a short span of time. Like, I asked Timmy, why did you do this? I mean, I thought you were content with the other brand new 2020 Honda Civic Si. What made you think about purchasing a lightly used one? His answer was unbelievable. I wanted a red Civic. Ladies and gentlemen, I can't make this shit up. Deadass, that was his reasoning. And yes, I asked him, why didn't you just paint your white Civic red or, even wrap it? Anything to avoid going way under. Like, I'm sure he rolled over so much negative equity from his new 2020 Civic to now this lightly used one. He reluctantly decided not to tell me how much he owed on this third Civic, knowing full well that I would probably be disappointed in him. So let's break the math down. His 2018 Honda Civic Si was $34,000. He put $4,000 down. He owned that car for 18 months at $667 a month. So for that first Civic, he paid around $16,000 before trading it in. He then buys another Civic Si for $29,000, zero down this time. His monthly payment was $612 a month. He owned that thing for only 8 monthly payments. So let's just round that to about $5,000. He's now $21,000 in. He goes out, buys a red Civic Si with the rolled over negative equity. I'm guesstimating he's got yet another car loan for at least $34,000 with his usual ungodly high interest rate. Effectively, he's back to square one, if not worse. By the time he's done paying off this third Civic Si, assuming he actually keeps the damn thing for 6 full years, he would have paid around $72,000 including interest to own this Civic Si. That didn't even include the money he of course spent on mods. which likely would have put him damn close to $80,000. So the moral of the story is, to you young, impressionable viewers out there, do not destroy your 20s by having so much auto debt. Of all the debt that you can incur, excessive auto debt is arguably the worst kind of debt you can be in, unless of course it's your business to be into cars and you could somehow write it off, or you could leverage other assets to pay for your car slowly. But that's besides the point of this video. For you typical average Joes that are just spending a boatload of money on cars, just don't do it, man. Even if you were to make the argument that you're happy, are you though? Real talk, I've never met a car guy that was happy to be burdened with so much debt. If anything, all I hear about is them endlessly complaining about how it's ruined their relationships, how it's made them feel financially trapped, and so on. Don't let this be you. Now, if I could just rewind time myself, I would have just bought my Camaro and just kept it all these years. I wouldn't have, settled for the Mustang initially and then moved on to the GTI. But life goes on. I can only imagine what opportunities Timmy will miss in his 20s, simply because he was chasing the hype train and trying to keep up with the Civic Type Rs or whatever car out there. Alrighty guys, that's it for this story. Stay tuned for yet another bad financial decision story coming up. Until then, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace out.